Welcome into Lunch with the Coach. I'm Bobby Burton, joined by Coach Bob Shipley. Coach Brian Irwin is on vacation this weekend. He's all the way over in Greece. Oh, my goodness. Bob, at around Saturday, around 5:30, I wish I was in Greece. But 6:30, I was happy I was watching that football game. Longhorns beat the Mississippi State Bulldogs 45-38. Coach, I know you watched all of it. We're going to get into your thoughts on this game here pretty quick. This episode brought to you by our friend Laura Baker, Austin area realtor with Keller Williams. We'll talk to you about her a little bit later. But Coach, the comeback win. You're a longtime high school coach, spent time in college ranks as well. When you have a comeback win like this, what does that mean for your team? What is the feeling about, and where can they take it from here?
Well, first of all, it was it's an incredible confidence booster, to me, for this football team. And we just saw this team, they've teased us so many times, Bobby, and my first instinct when that happened and the game was over was this team just grew up in front of us. They figured out how to win. When it came down to it, Arch was money. What an incredible fourth quarter he played. And so I think it's a great example of what could happen. It's an old coaching cliche of coaching believing in players and players believing in coaches, and to do it without your All-American safety. It took us a while to kind of figure it out, but anyway, and then the defense stood up when they need to stand up in a big way. And so just overall, I think it's just a great boost coming in with a red hot Vandy coming into town this Saturday. It couldn't have been a better finish and excitement to build off of. Now the question is, as you know, what will we do with it?
Yes. Yep.
It's kind of like a dog chasing a car. What do you do when you catch it? We've got this momentum. We've got this high off of this. We believe we can overcome anything. Okay, now what are you going to do with it? Hopefully it's not a regression. Hopefully it's a progression to watch this team keep growing up every week, because they're going to have to grow up fast. And if they can get by Vandy somehow, then we got a week off and we can kind of get our legs under us, catch our breath, and then make that final push.
Yeah. Then everything's on the table that you started the season for, right? You got a hard road to hoe, but at least you're there. But they do have to beat Vandy. I want to ask you this whole idea. They've won, 3 games in a row now with Oklahoma in the Cotton Bowl, then going on the road, beating Kentucky this past weekend, Mississippi State on the road. They're coming home for the first time in a month. They were at Florida the week before OU, and so they've been on the road for more than a month. But the last 3 weeks, each of the wins have come in different ways. So it's like a variety of ways. Is this a team that you could identify as learning how to win? Because a lot of people, they already know how to win. They were, 12-1 last year, or 11-1 in regular season, and 12-2, and all this other stuff, right? They are a fundamentally different team on offense. 9 of 11 starters are new. A lot of defensive personnel off to the NFL. Is this something a lot of teams have to learn that are young like they are? They have to learn how to win again in different ways?
Yeah, I think so. And as strange as this sounds, being this deep into the season, our next game is in November. That sounds crazy, but I still think we're figuring out who we are. And it looks like maybe some guys have taking it upon their shoulders. It sure looked like in the fourth quarter to carry this team and find a way to win. And on the watch with us last Saturday, I said during the second quarter that we apparently don't have any playmakers on this team. Guys that, when you've got Worthy and these other guys, it's just Matthew Golden, somebody was going to break it. And I guess we just don't have that. And then comes the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
And we had guys show what they're capable of doing, and so, yeah, it's a puzzle that I think still is being put together. And, but I do know this team does have one thing, They have heart. And
Yeah.
they love each other and they fight for each other. It was great to see Colin Simmons in that press conference last week, taking up for the offense. And it's just, like I said, it's coaching, loving and believing in those players, and players loving and believing in their coaches. And not that there's not any disgruntled players. Of course there is. Everybody wants to start. Everybody wants, but you have to be ready when it's your turn. And I still think we may see some other guys step up here on the last third of this season or last quarter of this season that we weren't counting on, because there's certainly guys that have been stars for us that I wasn't counting on. One of them is a guy that's pretty good at punt returns.
Yeah, absolutely. I had a couple of thoughts on that. I don't know if you saw it, but I saw some video between the third and fourth quarter of this game on Saturday. There were two guys in the middle of a scrum prior to the fourth quarter. Okay. And when I say a scrum, it's one of those all-team fourth quarter meetings. There were two guys, Arch Manning and Anthony Hill, in the middle. Everybody gathered around, and I think they came together and ended up putting forth their best effort. Hill had a monster game on Saturday. Arch was money in that fourth quarter. I wanted to ask you about Arch as we talk about this. You said he had a great game, and what was it, in your opinion, that Texas did in the fourth quarter that kind of unshackled the offense to a degree? Did they just get simpler with their dropbacks and with their protections? And was it just that simple? Did Mississippi State let down their guard?
Well, I think we wore them down a little bit Saturday, for one. But for another thing, one thing I haven't really seen this offense do, and I've wanted them to do it since the start of the season, is play with a sense of urgency. There's a way we used to try to motivate kids and say, hey, you got to have a 4th and 1 mentality, man. It's a sense of urgency. Every freaking play, be a difference maker somehow. Find a way to make a difference on this play to help this football team. And it seems like to me that when the chips were on the table, and it's pretty obvious we're about to get embarrassed if something big doesn't happen. Hey, what about the roughing the passer? What if that doesn't happen? I heard y'all talking about that, after the game, you and Jerry, and it's like, what if that doesn't happen? It's just, but it did, and it happened at the right time, and it was a good call. But this team, I think I want to see us with a faster paced offense. More of a sense of urgency, tire the defense down, but the problem with that is, as you can imagine, you can't just decide you're going to do it in a game if you hadn't been practicing it every week and every day, because your linemen will be gassed just like the defense are, because they're not in condition to do that. But Sark came in with all gas, no brakes. But boy, in the fourth quarter, we were all gas and no brakes, and it was a thing of beauty to watch. Yeah. It really was. One of the most amazing University of Texas comebacks I've ever seen.
Yeah, it was awesome. Question for you: do you think Arch is just better in the shotgun? It's just more natural.
I think he is. Absolutely.
Is it less complexity in the offensive line when he's just in the shotgun, as opposed to we got to pull the guard to block the backside guy, and we got to slide protect to the right, and isn't it just more mano-a-mano at that point, or we're going to protect as a group per se? What do you think?
Well, I'll say one thing. It's easier on the center for a shotgun snap, because he doesn't have to make sure and get that ball all the way up in his cheeks and make sure the quarterback has it before he's off. He's got to make sure that quarterback has. You've seen centers that have been called on false starts. They snapped the ball, but it wasn't, and they haven't fired off yet. They've snapped it, but they haven't fired off, because they've got to make sure that the snap is secured by the quarterback. And in the shotgun, it's much easier. You just flick your wrist and you're gone. So I think it gives the center an edge, a half a step maybe quicker, which we need. But also, I think it's good for Arch to be able to see everything better, and Arch it's also something he has to be focused on, make sure he gets a clean snap. I just think it just complicates things a little bit. I know there's some things that probably they're trying to take advantage of or whatever. They're trying to execute some things out of under the center. But, to me, when I'm breaking down film on opponents, I'll have all my shotgun plays and all my under center plays, and let's see what start looking and seeing what the tendencies are, and you can cut down what you have to prepare for. But if a team is in the shotgun the whole game, unless it's short yardage or something like that, then you throw out some, you're eliminating some tendency opportunities for the defense to have against you. But I just think it's just more breathing room. I just think it's maybe psychological, maybe not, but the quarterback can see everything that's happening under center. It's a little bit harder, and he's got to be focused on getting that snap.
Yeah, focused on getting the snap, and then he just has a better view maybe of what the defense is trying to do from him. Because I'll tell you, he was just under such duress, and not just in this game, but over a period of games. And it's almost like that, taking that complexity away, which they did most of the fourth quarter, kind of freed him up to be a little bit of a gunslinger.
Right.
And big throw downfield to Ryan Wingo is really what kick-started the comeback on a 3rd and 10, by the way. Roll to your left and throw it 50 yards downfield. That was a whale of a throw. All right. Now, all that being said, Arch Manning is likely out for Vanderbilt. We'll hear more from Steve Sarkisian later today, but the thought is that Arch is likely in the concussion protocol, and we may not see him. I want to ask you about that next, but first, I want to say thank you to our sponsor. That is Laura Baker, Austin area real estate expert. She has a open house nearly every week. Make sure you check them out. 512-784-0505, 512-784-0505. That's Laura at Andy Allen team of the Keller Williams Realty Group. Again, Laura Baker, if you're moving to, from, or within the Austin area, make sure you give Laura a shout, 512-784-0505. All right, so likely losing the quarterback. Matthew Caldwell's come in and been nails when he's played in competitive games, but he's only got two throws during those competitive games. He looks like he has ice water in his veins a little bit, to be honest. What did you think of that, and what do you think of Texas as they go forward with this offense in him?
Well, the 2 times he's come in, he's made incredible plays. The 2 games he's come in, and it's really hard to do that. You're not warmed up. But I also want to touch the flip side of that, and that is sometimes it is easier when you don't have any pressure coming on you. Oh, I got to go in. You haven't been worrying all week and all game and all that stuff. You got a clear mind. You go in there and you make a play. And, some guys play better off the bench. We'll find out this weekend if Arch isn't able to go, whether that's going to hold true. But I'm telling you, prayers for Arch. Hope he can come back for Vandy Saturday. But if he doesn't, man, I'm really excited to see Matthew Caldwell. I think a lot of people are excited. How do you think
it changes the offense, Bob? Fundamentally,
that's a great question. I haven't seen enough of Matthew Caldwell to know what he does, what his niche is, what he does well. I know this. He's shown us he can run well. He's shown us he can fit the ball in there and place it. He's athletic. He's experienced. He's seasoned. We've seen those things from him, but it's a little bit different thing coming off the bench than it is having a whole week to think about it and process it all. And this Saturday will tell us a lot about Matthew Caldwell, if in fact he is the quarterback, in terms of what his makeup is. Is he, because, there were a lot of boo birds that were saying, heck, look at that. The guy comes in one play, a few weeks ago when he came in and it was money. Well, there's your quarterback right there, Let's bench Arch and see what he can do. Just those kind of people who don't really understand what's going on. I think anybody that doubted Arch, just watch that fourth quarter. It was gutsy, heroic, everything you want in a hero. He was for us. Now, it was against Mississippi State, who has the longest active losing streak in the SEC. But at the same time, there's a lot of teams out there that are scared to death of playing them because they played most everybody down to the wire. They're just, I mean, I don't know if it's culture. I don't know what it is. Winners win, losers lose. I don't know what it is, but they weren't a bad football team, and I thought they were very well coached. So I'm not taking this as, just a win over a bad football. No, that was a good football team at their place.
They beat Arizona State earlier this season, and Arizona State beat Texas Tech, who's was a top 5 team at the time. So you just there is a little bit of parity going on in college football from a talent perspective. So there's that to consider. I want to finish up with this, Bob. Against Oklahoma, they return a punt for a touchdown. We go, wow, look at that. We got one. We got one over on the Sooners, right? Isn't that kind of what you thought? We probably won't see that again this year. And then Kentucky comes along, and Ryan Niblett pops 2. Not for touchdowns, but deep returns. And then on Saturday, he takes one to the house right as the 2-minute warning is being called. I mean, unbelievable consistency of returns from special teams. I don't know that I've seen 3 consecutive games with this many good punt returns by a Texas team in my lifetime.
No.
I mean, even going back to maybe the best I ever saw do it at Texas was Nathan Vasher, followed by maybe Aaron Ross. Okay. Those 2 guys were really good, right? Your son, Jordan, pretty good at it. But the consistency of those returns, and I'm not just talking about being a good return, but 3 games in a row with key punt returns. And I think what we're learning, and you and I talked about this prior to going on air, is it's not just him. It's the whole group. All of them have gone down that left sideline where they're making a wall, and it's been impressive. What you're a special teams guy at heart a little bit. You had your son there, tremendous returner. What is your thoughts on that as a whole, and how that consistency breaks? Because that's been more surprising than anything to me over the last 3 games.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I have to eat a lot of crow on Ryan Niblett because, when they started the season, it didn't move my meter at all when I heard Ryan Niblett was going to be the return guy. I just didn't think he was explosive enough. And man, thank goodness he has proven me wrong. He is plenty explosive. He's got great vision. He's quick. But like you said, and Ryan Niblett will be the first to tell you, hey, all those guys out there making those blocks, and some of those guys are consistently, as you were pointing out pre-show, that it's just like that group has a lot of confidence right now in themselves, and they know how they can turn a game. And I expect Texas to add a couple of wrinkles in their return game, because certainly everybody's going to have to be ultra focused every week during practice, spend more time on special teams, because that was, there were a lot of big plays in that game. If you could say what play won us a football game, that's been the biggest play of this year, I think. It, given the situation, given being behind so many points, with 10 minutes to go or whatever, it was one of those plays that if this season plays out the way all of us Texas fans hope it will and pray that it will, we can look back on that game and that specific play and say that's where our season turned. That's the difference that one special teams play can make on a football team and on a season potentially. But just the effort of all those guys. You think, I'm on special teams, no big deal. No, they're dang important. And Coach Irwin preaches that every week on this show, how important they are. And he's so right. And if he was here right now, I don't know that we could get him to shut up about talking about the importance of special teams, because once again, Coach Irwin is proven right.
Yes.
It is an incredibly important part of the game, equally, or not, if in his mind, probably more important than offense and defense, because people don't emphasize it enough. Players sometimes don't take it serious enough. Coaches don't always take it serious enough. I'm coaching this position. Why do I have to go over their special teams and coach the Gunners or whatever? But this is obviously a group of coaches and a group of players who have really bought in to this system and the way that they're setting out these returns. And obviously, we got a guy back there. We got lightning in a bottle with Ryan Niblett as a punt returner this year. And so maybe I think Jordan and a couple other guys are the only guys that have ever had 2 punt returns in one season for Texas. And he's got a chance to do that. And honestly, I hope he does. I hope he triples it. I mean,
yeah, he's got 2 so far, right? OU and now Mississippi State. Hope he beats them down. But
I love it.
The consistency, right, is really what is strange, because most of the times, people will kick away from a guy, or they'll kick it out of bounds, or they'll just sky it, so it's almost an automatic fair catch. But I mean, look, I mentioned Nathan Vasher and Aaron Ross and your son, all really, really good returners. I don't know. I mean, the consistency right now is pretty awesome, pretty and rare for me, because it's such a unique part of the game. You just don't get that many attempts that frequently. It's not like they wouldn't have been good. Just nobody kicks it to them every week, But certainly, to your point, could be a play that turns the season.
It could be. And I failed to mention this, and you've mentioned it many times this season, the courage that he has.
Yeah, Sark mentioned that.
I mean, he's not about fair catching unless they tell him to. Yeah. He has got some crazy courage, and I love that, man. Yep. And that and other guys feed off of that. There's times I'm like, come on, Ryan, field the ball. Man, we lost 15 yards on that one. Just, try. But who knows? I'm sitting at home watching it. I don't know where the wind's blowing, or if it's blowing, or I don't know what this guy's done all season long. The punter for the other team. So, just nobody's going to be perfect. But I'm telling you, I don't know that there's a better return man in the country right now playing as well as Ryan Niblett is.
No, there's not. And I would say that's a guy that, to your point, his courage gives other people on the team a reason to step up too.
Right.
Not just the team guys on special teams, but both sides of the ball. Texas also, before I let you go, Coach, and I know I'm keeping you a little over this afternoon or this morning. The idea that Texas came out, and you mentioned Colin Simmons early, and how last week he talked about, oh no, the offense is part of this too. And then the week after, what happens? The offense picks up the defense late, and then the defense kind of closes out the door, doesn't let Mississippi State score at the end of regulation, gets them straight 4 and out in overtime. That's a team win, and I think these guys can take it forward from here, man. I really do. I really hope it happens against Vanderbilt.
I really do. I really feel good about the game this Saturday. I mean, I just feel like, finally we get to go. We get to play in front of our home crowd. Man, you take that for granted sometimes, early in the season when you're playing at home so many times. But I think for them to be back at DKR and back in their locker room, and, it's just the momentum of the win, the great heroics from so many guys who played incredibly to help us win that game. This like I said, this team's teased us a lot, but I really feel like this could be a game where all 3 phases really click, because at times Saturday there were obviously offense was clicking. There was time defense wasn't clicking as much, but they did when they had to, and of course special teams. And so I really feel like this could be the game. I'm hoping that we can put it all together and really start gelling and be on a trajectory to play for the conference championship.
Good stuff. All right, that's Coach Bob Shipley. He'll be on later tonight with Rod Babers and CJ Vogel on the live stream. Coach, thanks for coming on with us. Thank you also to our producer, Matt Hutchinson. For Bob Shipley, I'm Bobby Burton. You guys have a good one. Hook 'em horns.